Welcome back to the Deep Dive. You've given us a really fascinating set of sources this week, all diving into the mechanics of deep insight practice.
Vipassana, yeah.
Specifically through the lens of one of the most rigorous traditions out there, the Mahasi Sayadaw method.
That's right. You know, when people think of meditation, they often have this image of just gentle breathing or maybe some calm visualization. Well, it's different.
It seems very different.
Our sources distill a Dharma talk from Sayadaw Shweminwon, who's the current chief abbot of Mahasi Monastery. And it's really not a philosophy lesson. It's more like a highly detailed operational manual for training your mind.
An operational manual. I like that. So our mission today is to pull out the absolute core tenets of this practice, the technical instructions that, as they say, maintain the light of the Dharma.
Right.
This feels like the shortcut to understanding that uncompromising rigor that the famous Mahasi Sayadaw himself established. We're looking for the how-to guide to what they call experienced wisdom.
Precisely. We really need to get into the relationship between, the map and the journey, the specific object they use for meditation, and maybe most importantly, the psychological discipline you need to turn suffering into genuine insight.
Okay, let's unpack this. And I think we have to start right at the beginning, where the Sayadaw just draws this hard line in the sand about intellectual knowledge.
Yes.
This foundational split between theory and practice.
It's the essential opening message. He makes this incredibly sharp distinction between Dharma study, that's Fap Hop, and Dharma practice, which he calls Fap Hanon.
And for most of us, study is the default, isn't it? We read the books, we talk about impermanence or non-self.
And we feel like we get it. We feel informed.
But then the sources hit you with that incredible analogy to just stop you in your tracks. The map analogy.
It's the perfect metaphor, really. Dharma study is absolutely necessary. It's the map. It shows you the whole path, the milestones, the dangerous spots, the destination. But the core teaching is this. If you spend your whole life just holding the map, admiring it, debating it, feeling proud, you even own it, you'll never take a single step. You'll never actually reach the destination.
That's a real trap, isn't it? Intellectual mastery becoming a substitute for actual transformation.
A kind of spiritual vanity.
Yeah.
It absolutely can be. The instruction is so urgent. You have to move beyond just knowing things and integrate the teachings right now, immediately. The goal is to transform that factual understanding into experienced wisdom. Trita Chungyam.
Okay, that phrase experienced wisdom, I want to push on that a little bit.
Yeah.
How does that feel different from just, knowing the sentence, all things are impermanent?
Well, when you just know it intellectually, it's an abstract concept. It's a line in a book.
Right.
But when you experience it, it hits you viscerally. You see, with total clarity, a thought you just had or a sensation in your knee, or even that feeling of I that's observing it all, they're all just these instantaneously dissolving phenomena. It stops being a belief. It becomes the bare, undeniable fact of reality happening in this very moment.
It sounds like the map has to be thrown away the moment the journey actually begins.
Exactly. The practice, the journey, has to start in earnest right now with every single breath, every movement, which, takes us directly into the how-to.
It does. Let's go there. Let's move to the central technique this tradition is so famous for.
Yeah.
The meticulous noting of the rising and falling feng vas of the abdomen.
Mm-hmm.
This is a part that a lot of newcomers find a little odd.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, why the belly? You can feel the breath at the nostrils or in the chest, too.
And the Sayadaw gives a very, very specific, doctrinally grounded reason for this. It actually connects back to the ancient Buddhist classification of the physical elements.
Okay.
The movement of the abdomen, the rising on the inhale, falling on the exhale, is seen as the clearest, most sustained, and most immediate manifestation of the wind element, or fungi.
The wind element.
Right.
So what is it about the wind element that makes it such a good anchor for insight?
It represents movement, pressure, and tension. When you follow the breath at the nose, the sensation can be really fleeting, very subtle.
Sure.
But when you focus on the abdomen, that sensation of movement and pressure is clear, it's consistent, it's broad. It gives you this stable primary canvas of constant physical change to work with.
But if I'm just sitting there watching my stomach move, how is that really different from a relaxation exercise? It still sounds like I'm focusing on a body part.
And that is the absolute key distinction that the Mahasi tradition makes. It's so critical. The goal is not to look at a body part.
Okay.
The goal is to sense the reality of the phenomenon, the Thuksting Fap. You are observing the bare physical properties, the movement, the pressure, the density, the relaxation as they happen moment by moment.
So if I'm noting rising, I'm not supposed to be thinking my stomach is rising.
Oh.
I should be thinking, or rather feeling, pressure is expanding, movement is occurring.
That's the shift. You move your attention away from the concept of a stable body and onto the bare, direct experience of change. The Sayadaw teaches that by isolating the wind element so clearly, you make the abstract idea of impermanence physically tangible.
You can actually feel it.
You feel it arise and vanish, and you realize you're just tracking the dissolution of phenomena moment after moment. And that's the first real dawning of that experienced wisdom we talked about.
That adds a level of precision that really elevates it far beyond just watching your breath. It becomes an investigation.
An investigation into the nature of matter itself.
Conducted with intense focus.
And when that focus gets intense, obstacles are, well, they're inevitable.
Yes, the hard gate. Every practitioner runs into this. You commit to a long sitting session and physical pain shows up. In the knees, the back.
Yeah.
It just becomes the loudest thing in the room.
And this is where most people either quit or they shift their position.
So how does the Sayadaw tell you to handle it?
The guidance is, it's difficult, but it's essential. Our normal reaction is fight or flight. We hate the pain. We just desperately want it to stop.
Of course.
And that resistance, that desire for this moment to be different than it is, that the Sayadaw says is suffering.
So the instruction must be to abandon the resistance. But what does that actually feel like? Am I just supposed to, grit my teeth and endure it?
Not at all. Endurance is still a form of attachment to a self who is enduring. The instruction is to use your mindfulness, your chantnyam, to turn the pain itself into the object of observation.
You don't suffer the pain, you observe the pain.
Precisely.
But how do you create that separation?
Through noting. When the pain arises, you move your mental attention directly onto the sensation and you note pain, pain, or heat, heat, pressure, pressure. The key is to see it as an objective object kakwan. You're just registering sensory data, like a scientist reading a gauge.
I can see how that would separate the physical sensation from the mental story that goes with it. The I can't take this or this isn't fair narrative.
Yeah, exactly that. And when you observe it closely, impersonally, without that story, something really remarkable starts to happen.
What's that?
You begin to see that the pain, just like the rising and falling of the abdomen, also arises and ceases. Singdit. It's not some fixed, solid, eternal thing. It changes, it pulses, it shifts, it changes intensity.
So it's not one monolithic object called pain. It's actually a rapid sequence of ephemeral sensations.
That's it. And that observation forces this fundamental separation between the experience and the conceptual self. The thought, I am in pain, transforms into the direct realization, there is a painful sensation arising and ceasing in this location.
And that's the wisdom of non-self.
Vongam.
It's the beginning of it. There is no stable, permanent I separate from this constant flux of sensation.
What's fascinating here is the physical pain, the very thing we fear and try to run away from, stops being an obstacle.
It becomes a vehicle. It becomes the most potent vehicle for insight into non-self. You're using the most intense suffering to destroy the very idea of the self that suffers. That's an incredible reversal.
It completely reframes your relationship with all discomfort. The pain is it's just another phenomenon. It's a physical fact, not a personal attack.
So we've talked about the quality of the observation. Now let's talk about the quantity. Because everything we've just described, the precision, the discipline, it's all useless without continuity.
Right. The Sayadaw is emphatic about this. It can't be a part-time activity.
And he uses that really striking analogy to drive the point home.
The friction analogy. It's a great one.
Tell us about it.
He compares creating insight wisdom to the process of rubbing two bamboo sticks together to make fire. You need constant, uninterrupted friction to generate enough heat.
So if you rub for a little bit, and then take a break,
the heat immediately dissipates. If you rub for a minute, then you rest for 5, you have to start all over again, every single time.
The cumulative energy, the mental heat you need for that spark of insight to ignite just never builds up.
That's the momentum of concentration. The mindfulness has to be continuous, Lien Tok, unwavering from the moment you wake up until the moment you fall asleep. Any gap, any moment where awareness is lost, it just dissipates all that accumulated mental energy.
You know, for a modern listener, juggling a job, a family, life, that standard sounds almost impossible.
Yeah.
How does this continuous application work when you're not sitting silently in a hall? How do you maintain that friction?
And this is where the practice really gets integrated into the real world. The sources are very specific, very granular here. Every single activity, no matter how mundane, must be brought into awareness and noted.
Can you give us some examples from the talk? What does that look like when I'm not on the cushion?
Okay, so when walking, you don't just walk. You break it down. You note lifting, moving, setting down, slowly, deliberately. When you're just standing, you note the sensation of standing. When eating, you note every single step. Seeing the food, reaching, lifting the fork, chewing, tasting, swallowing.
Even personal hygiene.
Yes, even lumvetsen. Every motion, raising your hand, brushing your teeth, it all has to be clearly noted, recorded in your awareness.
So the key isn't about moving slowly necessarily. It's about being entirely present for the mechanical reality of what's happening.
You're transforming automatic routines back into raw sensory data.
Right.
If you lose awareness for even a minute while walking from the kitchen to the living room, you've stopped rubbing the sticks. The goal is to make your entire day, your entire life, the meditation hall. That consistent application is what builds the mental heat needed for real insight.
This Dharma talk by Sayadaw Shweminwon, it's just a phenomenal guide. It's so technically detailed, but also challenging and really motivational for anyone serious about this path.
It leaves absolutely no room for ambiguity, does it?
Not at all.
It really solidifies that central principle of the Mahasi tradition. The continuity and the intensity of the practice are the only things that matter. That's the power source.
Yeah.
You have to get past the conceptual map and just fully commit to the moment-by-moment, relentless journey of observation.
And it's that relentless observation that eventually unravels the self and the illusion of a stable reality.
It does. The Sayadaw concludes that only insight wisdom, trait to minsat, can lead to the true end of suffering. And we've seen how this profound wisdom can start just by watching the rise and fall of physical elements, something as routine as breath.
So if the wisdom of non-self, which is arguably one of the ultimate truths about reality, can begin just by meticulously observing something as mundane as our own abdominal movement, or as unwanted as a sensation of pain, what other fundamental life-changing truths about the nature of reality are we overlooking in our daily lives simply because we treat them as too routine or too familiar to really notice?
That's the question.
That is the ultimate challenge posed by this deep dive. Thank you for guiding us through this. It's an incredibly rigorous system, but a deeply rewarding one to understand.
My pleasure. It was great to talk through it.
And thank you for joining us for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.